This incident began back in 2012 on February 2nd. It was a snowy day, and the coffee shop that the man drove over to looked as normal as it had ever been. The man parked his car with a dozen cars in the parking lot and began to make his way through the snow towards the teal-colored coffee shop. The coffee shop was called the Common Grounds, and it was quite popular in Anchorage. The man was a barista there and was about to start his shift for the day when he noticed that the door to the coffee shop was already unlocked. This was strange because the person who worked the night before never made mistakes like these. That person was Samantha, and she had been working there for about a month and had proven herself to be quite a responsible individual. He decided to ignore it, but when he got inside the shop, it became much harder to ignore. The shop inside was a mess, with napkins on the ground, several things out of place, the towels were out, and so were the cups. It looked as if Samantha had left the shop in a hurry without even attempting to clean up before leaving. The man immediately made his way to the cash register to check if the money was there, only to find that the register was unlocked already and had been emptied out. This is when he realized that the shop had been robbed and called his manager to inform about his discovery. They would soon realize that much worse had transpired the night before. The night before, Samantha had asked her boyfriend Dwayne to pick her up from work when her shift was over, and so he arrived there at around 8:30 p.m., about 30 minutes after her shift was supposed to end, and waited for her. He looked around the parking lot and didn't find Samantha anywhere, so he decided to check the shop, only to find that it was completely dark inside and looked like it had been closed up already. He got out of his truck to check inside through the window, just in case. But sure enough, he didn't find anyone inside. After seeing this, Dwayne immediately left. He and Samantha had been fighting recently. Because of that, Dwayne assumed that Samantha didn't want to see him at all and had gone home herself. Regardless, Dwayne was still worried about her and decided to send a text asking her why she wasn't at the shop when she asked him to come himself. He also asked if she was okay and if she had made it home safely. After not receiving any response from her, he decided to go to her house to make sure that she was safe. When he got to her house, her father, James, answered the door. When Dwayne explained the situation to him, James told him that Samantha hadn't come home. They decided to wait together, and suddenly, Dwayne's phone lit up, revealing a text message from Samantha, indicating that she was still upset with him and had gone over to her friend's place for the time being. James was immediately suspicious of the message, as his daughter was close to him and would always inform him before staying over somewhere else. It didn't make sense that she would ignore his calls. The two waited all night, trying to get in contact with her, to no avail. The following morning, James filed a missing persons report at the police station. The police inspected the scene and operated under the assumption that Samantha was the robber, as there were no signs of struggle, and the panic button had not been pressed either. But it didn't make sense how Samantha could have gotten away in the heavy snow with no car. The police called the coffee shop owner, who told them what the barista had described, and then sent them the security camera footage. The footage revealed that Samantha had been at work as usual when a customer came in. She got his order ready, but suddenly backed away, turned off the lights, and hid under the counter for about a minute. She later got up again and scooped out the money from the register to give it to the customer. She then knelt with her back to the window again, but this time, someone was tying up her hands. He then jumped inside, pointed a gun at Samantha, and walked her outside. After this, the FBI was called in as well, while Samantha's father gained support from the residents of the region to help raise reward money for information on Samantha. He had also drawn attention from major news outlets, who began talking about the incident. Investigations were not leading anywhere, as there wasn't much to go off of with the grainy footage. It was only 3 weeks after Dwayne received a text message from Samantha's phone, directing them to a park. He immediately alerted the police and Samantha's father, and they made their way there. They found a ransom note on the bulletin board with a black and white picture of Samantha attached to it. She looked dazed in the photo, not even looking at the camera, while there was a hand in the picture holding a newspaper from February 13th, basically showing that Samantha was alive. The ransom asked for $30,000, instructing them to deposit in Samantha's bank, and she would be released 6 months later. The FBI told James to deposit part of the ransom, and he did what he was told. They sat and waited for withdrawals so they could track them. Withdrawals happened from different banks across the country, and each time, the man was wearing a ski mask and sunglasses. But in one security footage from a withdrawal in Texas revealed a white sedan. Immediately, authorities in the area were on the lookout for the car. A patrolman spotted the vehicle a few days later. He tailed it to look for any reason to stop it, and noticing that it was going 2 miles over the speed limit, he pulled the car over. The man inside was calm and even gave his license to the patrolman. His name was Israel Keys, and the patrolman immediately knew that he was the culprit. In order to search of the car, sure enough, they found the mask, gun, Samantha's phone, and debit card. He was arrested and taken in for investigation. He denied the claims at first, but seeing the evidence against him, admitted to the crimes. The man said he wouldn't tell the full story until he got an Americano, a Snickers, and a cigar. When they complied, he began his story, and it was so disturbing that the FBI still hasn't revealed the full transcript. Here's his version of events. On February 1st, 2012, he decided to rob the coffee shop, but when he saw Samantha, his plans changed and he decided to kidnap her. He stuffed her mouth with napkins and took her to his truck, warning her not to make a move or she would be killed. She complied and gave him her phone, with which he sent those texts. He told Samantha his ransom plan and said that they would easily raise the money, so there was nothing to worry about. When they got to his house, Keys wrapped Samantha in tarps and checked in the house to make sure his 10-year-old daughter and girlfriend were both asleep. Then he blindfolded Samantha and took her to the shed. He put a rope around her neck and anchored both ends of it to the wall. Then he turned the radio up so no one would hear her if she made any sound. Then Keys reassured her, saying once the money was deposited, he would release her. He then went inside, relaxed for a bit, then went back to the shed with some water. Samantha tried her best to stay composed and asked him if the ransom was arranged. He said it was all going according to plan, and he had spoken to her father and everything. He went on to release the rope and zip ties he had used to restrain her. When she relaxed, he suddenly grabbed her hard and started tying her up again much more thoroughly. Apparently, he only did that to trick her because he liked giving his victims a false sense of hope. He had been lying about talking to her father and everything as well. Samantha knew what was going to happen as her expression had turned to complete resignation. Keys went inside to check on his daughter and girlfriend again, then went to the shed to assault Samantha. Afterwards, Samantha asked if he was going to kill her, and he said yes. She tried talking him out of it, but he just put a knife through her and choked her to death. After this, he just double-locked the shed, wrapped the body in tarp, went back inside to shower, and had breakfast with his daughter before going on a trip to New Orleans with her. After the 2-week-long trip, he went back to the shed to unwrap the body and put makeup on her face. He then sewed her eyes open and took a picture with a newspaper, which was the proof of life photo. After that, he chopped up the body and disposed of it in a lake. Turns out, the man was a serial killer who preyed on random people, specifically based on instinct. His victims were both male and female, child and adult. He didn't care as long as he fulfilled his urge to kill. He had also hid weapons all over the country, so he would always have stuff ready for murder whenever he felt like it. Everyone was a target of opportunity. He said that as soon as he saw Samantha in the shop, he knew he would kill her. That was his whole purpose. The ransom was just an added bonus. He liked giving false hope and then taking it all away. The number of his victims is unknown, and the man took his own life in jail before revealing them. He only left behind 11 cryptic drawings, and that's only the boiled-down version of it. You can Google his whole testimony if you're curious, but let me tell you, this man was twisted to the core. That's about it for today. See you all on the next one.